Here is the Backfire G2T electric skateboard review. I put it through a range test and a speed test to see if it lives up to the specs on their website, and I also show you the good, the bad, and how it actually rides in real life. So stick around. So Backfire boards are a Chinese manufacturer who have in the past produced traditional skateboards, but in the last 5 years they have moved into electric skateboards. I'm pretty sure their first release was the Backfire Galaxy, which was followed up by the Backfire Galaxy Gen 2 and then the G2, or that could be the same board, I'm not sure, I wasn't in the game at that time. Then they had the G2S, and now they've got the G2T. So they've had plenty of opportunities to iterate and do upgrades to their boards. And I have to say, the Backfire G2T is an incredibly well designed and well thought out electric skateboard. I want to thank Backfire Boards for sending me the G2T and giving me the opportunity to review their board. They haven't sent me any money or they're not paying me to do this review, so it's still going to be completely unbiased, and I don't want you to think that because they sent me the board that I'm going to give them any special treatment than any other board. So let's take a closer look at what the board's all about. The G2T deck is made of 8 layers of hard maple, so it has enough flexibility in it to absorb most of the vibrations when you're riding, but it's also solid enough to keep you steady and feel confident when you're riding at high speeds. It has a progressive concave shape, so the edges are raised slightly. This helps a lot when you're turning, and you kind of sit inside the board a little bit, which gives you a whole lot more confidence while you're riding. The G2T is technically an electric longboard, and has a length of 37 inches, a width of 10.8 inches, and a height of 4.3 inches. There's 2 options for grip tape. I have Backfire's Galaxy graphic on mine, but you can choose to get the plain black one with their logo on it, which Backfire call golden black. One of my favorite things about the G2T electric skateboard is that it comes with 2 sets of different size wheels. It has 83mm wheels pre-installed, and you get 96mm wheels in the box. This is awesome because you can just change the wheels and completely change your riding experience. If you want to head out for a slide sesh or take advantage of the fast acceleration, chuck on the 83mm wheels. But if you're going for longer rides like commuting to work or school and you want a really comfortable ride, then I recommend the 96s. Both sizes have a durometer of 83A, so they're nice and cushy, but you do feel a big difference in the vibrations that you feel in your feet between the small and the big wheels. Backfire boards really do know what they're on about when it comes to skateboards in general, because they've put the extremely popular Caliber 2 trucks on the front of the G2T electric skateboard. When you pull the G2T out of the box and take it for its first ride, you'll immediately notice how loose the trucks are. I rode for about 15 kilometers before I decided to tighten them up, and after I did, I couldn't believe how much more solid my ride was and how confident I felt on the board without compromising the ability to turn. Backfire G2T is equipped with dual hub motors at the rear, packing 350 watts of power each. But my favorite thing about these hubs is that the PU tires are replaceable. This makes maintenance of your board a lot easier and far less expensive because you don't need to replace the entire hub motors. All you need to do is replace the PU tires. And changing the PU tires on the rear wheels is super easy. Backfire give you the hex key that you need in order to do it yourself. A full replacement set of 2 front wheels and 2 rear wheel PU sleeves only costs $60. So if you like doing a lot of sliding, you're really going to appreciate this. The Backfire G2T is loaded up with Samsung 30Q battery cells rated at 36 volts, 6 amps, which equals 216 watts. So it's super powerful, but there is no chance you're going to get this on an airline. The battery is replaceable. There are only 6 bolts around the outside of the enclosure that need undoing to gain access into the battery. And you can get replacement batteries online from Backfire website. Backfire boards have put a lot of thought into the design of the G2T remote. The rubbery matte finish feels amazing in the hand, and the little space that they leave you to put your index finger makes you feel like you've got control of the remote, and in turn you've got control of the board. The remote has an OLED display which shows you your current speed, your current trip length, odometer for total distance ever traveled, the speed mode you're in, the direction of the board, battery level for board and remote, and whether or not turbo mode is activated. That's a hell of a lot of info on a small screen, but I have to say they have done really well with the display's layout. You turn the board on by pressing the button on the casing closest to the back wheels. You then hold the power button on the remote until the board pairs. You can flick between reverse and forward mode with the switch at the bottom. You can tell which direction it is in by looking at the 3 arrow symbols under the speed mode. There are 2 main riding modes, Eco and Sport. which you can switch between by pressing the E/S button. And there is also a turbo mode, which is a temporary power boost which you can enter by pressing the triangular warning sign button. When in eco mode, the speed on the remote shows a top of 19 km an hour, which is 11.8 miles per hour. When in sport mode, the speed on the remote shows a max of 37 km an hour, which is 23 miles per hour. And when in turbo, it shows 44 km an hour, or 27.3 miles per hour. One thing to note is that the current trip length is measured by the distance travelled between the time the board was at a complete stop. So if you're riding along and you stop at a set of traffic lights, the trip meter is going to reset back to 0. I would prefer if the current trip was measured by the distance travelled between the board being turned on and turned off. When you buy the G2T, Backfire sends you a ton of accessories. You get the usual suspects like the charger, remote and T-tool, but you also get an LED light you can mount on the front of your board, a USB-C cable to charge the remote, a heap of spare screws, 2 different hex keys, an additional XT90 cable and an extra set of 97mm wheels, which we've already talked about. So that's the board, let's take it outside and do the speed test. Bad. The Backfire G2T spec sheet says this electric skateboard has a top speed of 23.6 miles per hour, or 38 kilometers an hour. But when I did the speed test, I managed to get 26 miles per hour, which is 41.9 kilometers an hour. And that was with turbo mode switched on and wearing the 96mm wheels. One thing to note is that the turbo mode is only a temporary speed mode. It gives you a quick burst of power, but it then needs a minute or so to cool down before you can use the turbo mode again. Holy sh! As already mentioned, the Backfire G2T comes with 2 sets of wheels. So I went out and did a range test for the 83mm wheels and also for the 96s. On the Backfire Boards website, they state the range as 24 kilometers. I weigh 83 kilos, and on the day there was a slight breeze and the roads were nice and smooth. On the 83mm wheel range test, I pushed the board pretty hard using the turbo mode once, and I managed to reach a total distance of 11.3 miles, which is 18.3 kilometers. On the range test for the 96mm wheels, I didn't ride as hard and I got 11.8 miles, which is 19.1 kilometers. I think lighter riders could possibly hit the 15 mile or 24 kilometer mark. However, heavier riders should expect a range nearer to 10.5 miles or 17 kilometers. I tested the brakes in each of the riding modes to see just how quickly you can stop when riding at top speed. First, I tested the brakes in eco mode. And you can see that it does take quite some distance to stop, but it was smooth and the board was easy to control. Next was sport mode. The braking distance was significantly longer, which is understandable due to the higher top speed. And finally, I also tested the brakes when in turbo mode, and you can see just how long it takes to come to a complete stop. When applying the brakes at full power while riding at top speed in both sport and turbo mode, the back wheels would skid a little and whip out to the side. It was only slightly and I was able to stay steady, but it would be very easy for inexperienced riders to be thrown off here. So who is the Backfire G2T electric skateboard for? Because Backfire Board sends you 2 different wheel sizes, it really opens up the possibilities for you as the rider. I think the rider that will benefit most from the G2T is someone who wants to use the e-board to commute to work or school every day, but then on the weekends flip their wheels and take it out for a slide sesh and feel that adrenaline of the fast acceleration. And if you only fit one of these styles, then this board is still for you. Plus you've got the option to change them if you want to. So my favourite things about the Backfire G2T electric skateboard are the remote's design and features, including the OLED display with a ton of handy info. Replaceable PU tyres on the hub motors make maintenance a breeze. 83mm and 97mm wheels are included, making this electric skateboard ideal for most street riders. It goes really fast, especially in turbo mode, and I'm impressed by its range capabilities. There's really only 2 things where this board falls short, And that's the trip meter is measured by the distance between each time the board comes to a standstill, rather than by the distance between when the board is turned on and turned off. The other thing is that the light needs to be fixed on top of the board right above the front trucks. Some riders have a naturally wider stance and it could get in the way for them, but you don't have to install the light, you could just hold it in your hand. You can buy the Backfire G2T electric skateboard for $599. It's free shipping to the US and no more than about $80 to the rest of the world. So there you have it, the Backfire G2T review. If you have any questions, ask away and let me know in the comments below what you think of this electric skateboard. Also, please subscribe to get the latest on all electric skateboard news and releases. Thanks for watching and I'll see you soon.